with my Lambert team. Let's go, boys. We're going to do a team bonding up here. We kind of lost this yesterday and then didn't retrieve it. And then his teammates threw it under the bus. So now we're going to take the place with him. So we're going to see how well we work together. Hi, John. We're going to see what you all can do. All right, let's set this up. You need to get down and you one on your feet and the other shoulders. Jump around and then do one push-up. We're all going to come up together. All right? So get down. Your feet on the shoulder. It's that way. All right. Get your feet on the shoulder. It's that way. It's that way. Feet on the shoulders. It's that way. All right. Up. Everybody get down. Let's see if you can do that. All right, here we go. On the count of three, gentlemen. Let's see if we can do two. Ready? 1, 2, 3, up. Come on, down. Up. Awesome. Another work, gentlemen. If you have a key or a swipe card that you have redone and you have not filled it up, would you please be touch base and get that out of it? Thank you.
All right, we still have a lot of room in the benches up front. If we can move down like we've done the other nights, go on the road closer to the stage, that would be wonderful. Kind of move in from the outside so people can sit. We got a whole open row down here. Third row, completely open. Let's make sure we finish up on our phones so those aren't on so we can pay attention. So, to run today, a couple people are here kind of deviating in the wrong direction, so that leads me to make sure you listen in the morning when we describe the run. Today was pretty simple, stay on the paved road, so I think we made it. But how many people made it to the top without walking? Stand up if you did. All right, give yourself a round of applause. How many people thought it was easier than you thought it was going to be? All right. So we got a good weather today. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was tough, but we got it done, so hopefully you guys learned from last night. You guys with that? That's fine. All right. So about having a destination, having a desire, having a goal, something you want to do, and hopefully for those that did have teammates here, we work together because that can help you get up the mountain. So good job with that. Tomorrow morning, we only run in the morning tomorrow being Wednesday. So if you need to see a trainer for any reason, come down in the morning, check into your group, hopefully you can run and then see the trainer immediately afterwards, because there will not be any trainers on campus after the morning run. The next time you'll be able to see a trainer will be on Thursday morning, okay? So we have 4 runs left this week. Tomorrow morning, Thursday afternoon, and Friday morning. So we've got to plan ahead as far as how far we want to run each morning. And then how far you want to go on Thursday, you have the option of 7, 6, 5, or 4 miles on Thursday. First, if you go from 7, the first 3 are kind of up, and after that, it's downhill and flat. Okay, so think about that, plan your week. That's we're training to stay healthy. You should always think what's coming the next day or the next 2 days. All right, staff, is there anything we're leaving out? Any other announcements, anything? All right, all right. Tonight, we have 2 speakers for you. Both of these are educational type as far as giving you a lot of information. You've seen, some of you have seen both of these individuals already speak today in the mini sessions. But again, they're 2 individuals that are going to speak about things they're passionate about, ones that are older, give you their experience in the sport, why they're involved, kind of from what they've gone through in their career and running, how they've gotten where they are, and then we'll impart their wisdom on you. And we'll finish up giving you some basic information that will help you make a better person, more healthy choices, things like that. So please listen. Both will have a question and answer session as they go along, and more primarily in the end. But again, pay attention. We'll learn a lot of useful information. And first, I want to introduce Jim Hage. He was one of the best runners in the United States. He made some USA teams in the 90s. He didn't even make his college team as a freshman. Walked on and got cracked. So I don't want to go too much. He might tell you more about that. But I think this is a good person here that can relate, because a lot of people here aren't really star D1 athletes, but there's still a way to be involved after high school. So I'm excited to see what he has to say. Let's everybody welcome Jim. I don't know where he is. Jim is here somewhere. There he is.
Hey, good evening. Again, my name is Jim Hage. Presently, I'm a coach at the Jim Chase High School, just outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. I got to shout out one of my students who's here, Edie, as well as there's some Blair students here. So some Montgomery County people representing down here in the heart of Virginia, which is cool. For all my folks who I spoke with today on SAP stuff, I appreciate getting to meet a few of you, and I look forward to seeing the rest of you guys over the next couple of days. I won't scare you too much with the SAP stuff. Fairly painless, maybe not as much fun as we had last night. And as far as that goes, I'd like to invite you to ask questions as we go along if you have questions. Or you can stay until the end, but I know we've had a long day, and I don't want to go on here too long, and so we've got a lot to cover. But feel free to throw your hand up, and I'll try to address any questions as we go. The first thing, as you can see just from our slide, this is what I'd like to touch on a little bit tonight. You guys are all, we got like 225 strong or something like that. It's really impressive. And of course, not everybody's an elite runner, but as Dan was saying, there are lots of approaches to running. And we were talking this morning about a lot of this stuff. And you guys are really just in the first slice of your running lives. And, look at an old guy like me, and I'm still running. And so I've gone through decades of career, college, graduate school. I quit my job for almost 2 years and ran, and that was kind of my job. I made enough money to pay my mortgage, which was cool. And it was really the best job I ever had. It was hardly a job. I got to focus everything onto running. And some people say, you really got to figure out how good you could be or how bad it could be. But I put everything into it. I slept right, I ate right, I napped in between runs, and I was, putting everything into it, and I got some results. And again, that's not for everybody. Most of you guys you may not run competitively after high school, which is great. One note I'd like to insert here is, man, relish the time that you've got competing in high school. Because I still remember all the stuff that we did in high school. And it's a special time. And I think a lot of you guys appreciate that. But just like Eddie was saying last night, we want to be aware, be conscious of what we're doing and be focused on, hey, I've got this opportunity, this week in the fall for cross country to really try to put something into what I want out of the sport. And of course, the more you put in, the more you're going to take out. So, and for all the counselors, we see you guys running, and it's just impressive. You guys can do so much stuff, almost without trying. And it sounds silly, but you bound up the mountain, and that's not easy. I mean, I know we're all going to sleep pretty well tonight. I got to do one more shout out to the 10 people that I was able to pass. I started at the very back, and it may sound ungenerous I won't ask them to stand up because they don't know who they are, they don't care. But it kept me going, thinking, oh yeah, I can run up and try to run with this person for the last stretch. And again, for me to keep up with you all was a real treat. And I was just, and I know all the coaches were just so impressed with everybody. Really a hard run. But I thought you guys, without exception, did really well. But back to what happens after high school. We want to be aware of what let me see if I can look this, of what we're doing while we're here. So I was almost going to read over this slide after today. Instead, this is real concern, right? The thinker. And I'm asking here, why are we here this week? Not in the physical big picture question. But I was going to read over it, WTF after today. What's going on? But if we can come in with a plan, and a way to take advantage of what we're doing, try to pick up some knowledge hopefully tonight, last night, throughout the rest of the week, on the runs. Again, I'm pretty certain that everybody who ran today feels a real sense of accomplishment. And that's something, we're going to take back with us when we go home and go into our seasons. So that's part of what we're doing here. And of course, everyone has their own motivations. We want to get fast, right? And a lot of us are super competitive. By the way, we all know Quincy Wilson is going to the University of Maryland, right? That's my alma mater, so we were talking about that this morning too. It makes me very proud. But the kind of training we can do here and the stuff that you can learn is also going to help our performance. So that's one big reason. This next one is kind of why I'm here. The dining hall is really pretty nice, huh? Yeah, it's awesome. And tomorrow's the picnic, I understand, so it gets even better. Yeah, the ice cream, the lady in there who puts the soups and makes all the stuff. It's pretty fun. So that's a reason. That's a fine reason. Some of us are probably here because the parents know it's fun. That's not my reason, but Chandler, didn't you tell me that your parents made you come? No. Everybody here wants to have fun, and I think everybody's doing a pretty good job of that, right? It's fun to hang out with your friends, it's fun to meet new people, it's fun to challenge yourself, whether it's at 6:15 in the freaking morning or running up a mountain. But I think this is an easy one for us here at this camp. Does anyone recognize, you recognize who this is, I presume? Do we know the context of what somebody always does? Yes, stand up, please. That's right. For those of you who are here, that's awesome. it's JFK, okay, he was the president when I was young, and you can see behind him, it says Rice University, he's at Rice University, making this speech where he commits to having the United States make it to the moon. This is 1962, and when did we land on the moon? 69. So this is the famous speech where he said, we should dedicate ourselves to landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth before this decade was out. So he's thinking big. And in 1962, not too many people thought that that was possible. You know, this echoes some of what we talked about last night, some of what Eddie was talking about, thinking big and laying plans. But there's a part of the speech where he, and for my SAT, we talked about this today, where he asks rhetorical questions, right? He says, why do we do these things? And he answers the question himself. We do these things in his Boston accent. We do these things because they're hard. It's very hard. Man needs to challenge himself. And that's what we're doing here. Why did we run up a freaking mountain today? Because it's hard, right? And we come out on the other end mentally stronger. Again, more echo of what we talked about last night. And we're challenging ourselves. Another thing that came up, I don't want to tell all of the secrets, but we talked this morning about these cold plunges. You guys have probably heard about that. It's kind of trendy now, right? You immerse yourself in ice water for anywhere from, I think, as short as 20 seconds to 3 minutes. And I thought, I thought there's physiological effects, it's kind of good for your muscles. But somebody pointed out, why do we do that? Why is that such a big thing right now? And it's really cold, really uncomfortable. It's hard. And it's not necessarily mind-altering like mushrooms or something like that. But it's a challenge. And it's not like the ice bucket challenge, but it's an ice water challenge where we're challenging ourselves to do something that's very, very difficult. And that's the mind alteration that comes about. I'm not necessarily recommending ice plunges, but I think the theme of doing things that are hard for their own sake is worth considering. This slide, you can tell it's black and white, so it's old, right? And see if you can put the pieces together. Yeah. That's me in the middle of the water, with both feet in the water, okay? This is the steeplechase, okay? You guys, not many of you ran a steeplechase in high school, I presume, right? But you can see the steeple barriers on the track in the morning. I always notice them. And there's one water jump at the turn, right? So you've seen this before. And this was my event in college for a couple of reasons. As Dan indicated, we didn't talk about this, but I was pretty good in high school. I just heard a lot of my senior track season, so I kind of missed out there. I did okay, but not good enough for a scholarship, certainly. And I went to Maryland, and I thought, well, I'll just try to walk on. And I did try to walk on, and Maryland they had great track teams back when I was running there. And I didn't make a team, and I was disappointed. But, I'm a freshman, I was do freshman stuff instead, drank beer and all that stuff. So, but the running bug never left me, and I ran intramurals, but it wasn't sustaining. And so I thought, well, I'll just train all summer, and I'll come back and try again. Of course, my training all summer was a good plan, poorly executed, but I still tried it out again in the fall of my sophomore year at Maryland. And it turned out, again, the team was really good, and that's one of the reasons I got cut. They won the Atlantic Coast Conference championships, and they were super. But all the good guys graduated. So my sophomore year, the team was pretty lousy, and I made it. And so that was great, and I had a great time. We traveled all up and down the East Coast. We were, UVA and Clemson and New York. We just had it was a blast. And I was sort of okay, but I was learning to run at a more competitive level and training harder. And I don't know what year this picture is. This is obviously track. But I was running steeplechase because we had Irish imports, guys from Ireland who were running the 5,000 and the 10,000, which were probably my more natural events. But the coach put me in the steeplechase because I was kind of expendable, all right? I wasn't on a scholarship. If I got hurt, it wasn't the end of the world for him. And so this became my event, and I kind of found this niche. And I worked at it, and I could do it. You can see this is, it's kind of chaotic, right? The steeplechase is kind of a wild race, but it's pretty fun. And the joke here is that I can't even read the caption. What's it say? Which one's the hurdler? Yeah, the world record holder in the hurdles is not me, certainly, not even in the steeplechase, but the guy in the Puma shirt leading the three guys on the track is Ronaldo Nehemiah. So we had the world record holder in the hurdles on our team. He set the world record in a Maryland track meet, which was pretty cool. So again, we had good teams, and in fact, the second place guy, they're just warming up, was the IC40 champion in the long jump. He jumped 25 and a half feet, something like that. So I was happy to be there, right? I'm like this walk-on guy. But each year I got a little bit better, and as it turned out, I guess I just developed late. I ran my best, so I started running marathons after college, and I didn't run my best marathon until I was 32 years old. That's twice most of your ages, right? So if you're running and you're hanging in there and competing, there's a long way to go, or there can be a long way to go. And I've been talking with a couple of the college coaches here. It's really hard to predict who's going to be when you're a great high school runner. If you're a great high school runner, will you be a great runner when you're 22? It's obviously not linear, and that's one thing that I've found that as I kept moving up in distance, I did relatively better. And running road races for me turned out to be, hey, that's what I was best at, and man, that's a lot of fun. You can win. I've won all sorts of stuff. Like junk, like TVs and electronics and that kind of stuff. But it was just a lot of fun, and traveled around the country, and in fact traveled when I quit my job. People would offer you trips to go and try to. They would sort of pay you a little bit to show up, but you could earn money there if you did well. So I traveled all over the world running, which was just a total blast, and it worked out great. I had a lot of fun. So again, the high school part of it, try to keep some perspective that, man, we're just here for 4 years in high school, and you're just learning about the sport. So there's a long way to go, and you can make of it what you like. For better or worse, for me, on my tombstone, it's probably going to say Jim Hage, runner. All right, and I'm okay with that. That's who I am, and that's why injuries are such a bummer, because you can't be who you want to be. And that's where you guys all have youth on your side and good health, and you can bound up mountains, which is pretty cool. After high school, of course, it's college. Whether you compete for your school, again, I think Eddie kind of said a lot of smart stuff last night. Dream big, and if you really want to, well, there are lots of ways to do it. You could go to a smaller school. I bet you this EMU would take any one of you guys right now on their track team. But it's a super small school. But it depends on what you want. Of course, we all want to get a good education and get a good job. Unless you don't want to get a good job and want to try running for a while, which is fun too. But even beyond, you get a job and you move on to the real world. There's this, and this is road racing, okay? And anybody can road race. I'm sure a lot of your parents road race, right? That's probably why maybe I should put a slide about that. Like, why are we here? Because my parents are road racers. Back in my day, there weren't so many parents running. But nowadays, lots of you guys are introduced to the sport at a young age. And I encourage you to do this, not while you're running track for your high school. I have guys who, one of our best kids, sort of just gave up on his senior season because he wanted to run the Boston Marathon. Well, running the Boston Marathon is a great thing. He had qualified, but you know, you got the rest of your life to run stuff like that. If you talk to your coach and say, hey, you know, can I work this race into my schedule? I think most coaches will work with you on that sort of a thing. I know in college I was sneaking in marathons in between seasons, and the coach never liked it. But it wasn't like he could take my scholarship away because I didn't have one. So, but afterward, it's a lot of fun, and I'll bet you know a lot of you guys will end up doing a lot of different road races. All right, that's most of what I wanted to cover. Does anyone want to throw a question out? I'd like to hear at least a couple questions. Candace. That's a pretty good question for me putting you on the spot. I've done a lot of marathons. I've sort of lost count, probably over 100. Yeah, so, but I've been doing it. I haven't done one in 10 years, but I used to do them back in. Again, sort of the philosophies change. It used to be people would say, oh, you can only do 2 marathons a year, but I think the Kenyans disproved that, and people could do them. I've done them close together, far apart. Yes, sir. I never won an NCAA title at all, not even sniffed it. I did well in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Probably the best I ever did was in the Olympic trials. I came in 8th in 1992 in the marathon. So that was, you know, so, you know, Dan's kind enough to introduce me as a 2-time Marine Corps marathon champion. Well, that's true. That's a, you know, I don't know if you guys know, there are probably 20,000 people in each of those races, which maybe makes even 10 of you today sound a little funny. But so there are lots of folks, but it's not like anyone's running sub 2 hours. I was running like 2:20 to win those races. One point I'd like to make about so if I was ever known for anything, it would probably be winning 2 Marine Corps marathons. But not too many people know until I tell them that I was actually 3rd twice before I ever won. And I didn't like being 3rd. I thought I could win. I thought I should have won, but I didn't. And so I took a year off in between. And what did I do? So came up with a plan, right? And I increased my training from 70 miles a week to 90 miles a week over those 2 years. And that may sound like a lot to you guys. I hope not anybody, I hope nobody's doing that kind of mileage in high school. That's too much when you're 16, 17. But I was like in my 20s. And so I increased my mileage, and then I went back to the Marine Corps Marathon, and I won. You know, it's, the math isn't too hard. You know, you work hard at something, and you're going to see results. And from there, after I won it a second time, I thought, okay, I've done this and now I'm moving on to another level, and then I start competing nationally and internationally, and I increased my mileage there to 140 miles. Yeah, yeah, and that's what it takes. If you want to compete on a national level in the marathon, okay, there's lots of qualifications there, but it worked, and some of the kids on our BCC team, we joke about that I'm kind of a hard ass, and I want them to run more miles because I know it's going to pay off, and we've had it pay off, right, Beatty? With the girls have won the state championship in cross country each of the last 2 years, and it's not a hard thing to figure out, but it's our kids, and they don't like to run so much. It's hard. It's hard, right? Yes. I would not recommend road races because, in between seasons, you're trying to recover, prepare for the next one. And a road race is an unscheduled stop along the way and really kind of interrupts your training, recovery, and the big plan. Yeah, there's plenty of time for road racing at an appropriate point in your life. And it's really fun, and I understand that high school kids, just want to have fun like anybody else. And maybe dabbling in it over the summer is not a bad way to go. I'm sure some of you guys have run road races. Can you confirm for me that it's quite a bit of fun, right? Yeah. Can I? I won the JFK 50 miler back in, doesn't matter what year, it was a long time ago. But I ran that race when I was 16 years old. I was in high school for that one. And to run a 50-mile race when you're in high school was just dumb, right? I remember sitting in geometry class and figuring out, oh yeah, if we run 8-minute miles, we could do that all day long. Wrong. And I didn't finish that race. But 27 or so years later, I won it. So I kind of made up for it. Yes. Say that again? Oh, you found him? Oh yeah, I see him. I never noticed that. All right. You get a prize. Yes, ma'am. Say that once more. We talked about that in SATs, right? Yes. Yes. I have one more weird thing about Jim, and then I'll let you go. So for those of you who do not know, I do not have a cell phone. All right. So all the 6.5 hours that you guys spend scrolling, I'm doing other things. All right. The other weird thing is more related to running. I ran a minimum of 2 miles a day for 41.5 years. How about that? People always say, oh, did you run on Christmas? Yeah. Did you run on your birthday? Yeah. Did you run when you were sick? That's a little harder. Yeah. Did you run when you were injured? That's a little dumber, but yeah. So every day. And why would I do that? There's another rhetorical question, right? Because I'm a runner, okay? And even when I'm sick, I felt like the best I felt that day was out running, all right? And so, I indulge myself. And when I'm injured, like today, I've got this plantar fasciitis, and fortunately, it only hurts when I'm going either uphill or downhill. So I was hurting today, but do I feel good about having run that mountain? Yeah. Yes. 2:15. So that's it was pretty good. It got me 8th in the nation, and at one point I was the 8th best marathoner in the country. So that was cool. but it's not sub 2 hours. It's not, you know, I never won. I never ran in the Olympics. But you know, for I told Dan last night in a confession. I don't know how many of you guys know 10K times. I ran the exact same 10K time on a track twice in my life, 30:06, which is no great shakes, and it probably equates to a 2:20 marathon. So for me to run 2:15, I was better at the longer distances. All right. What last question? Yes, sir. Fastest mile? That's too short for me, but I think I ran 4:22 in college. Again, not. I'm sorry. 2 mile in high school. It was a 2 mile. None of this 3200 stuff. 9:31. But I ran 9:02 in college, so I was better in college. Not great, but you know, okay. All right. Hey, you guys have been very, very polite. I appreciate it. I didn't see any phones out. You didn't see my phone out. But thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Dan.
All right. Okay. I get to introduce the next speaker. It's Sienna Lambert. She's a registered dietitian. She just graduated from Virginia Tech in May with a master's in nutrition and diet. Uh, she's worked with the Virginia Tech athletics with nutrition. She's been a camper. She's been a counselor. And I had the pleasure of coaching her for 4 years in high school at Corp. So here's Sienna. And she'll give you more details.
Hello, everybody. It's a second to connect this. Real quick. Okay, I'm not telling it. But I guess I can tell you a little bit about myself before we get there. So yeah, hello everybody. It's super awesome to be here. As David said, I was been both a camper and a counselor here. So I have been sitting in your seats, and counselors have also been sitting in your seats too. So I have in fact run at Reddish now 2 times, but I decided not to go using that. But that's okay. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. And just a little bit about me, like I said. So how I got into nutrition, like David said, I am a registered dietitian. I got into nutrition because I grew up with a bunch of allergies. So I had, I grew up with a bunch of allergies. And then also at age 9, I was diagnosed with celiac. Does anybody know what celiac is? You have it? Does anybody have it? Yeah? Hey, there you go. Yeah, that's awesome. So I have that. Sweet, awesome. Sweet, there we go. Oh my mother. That's good. How about this? There we go. All right, so yeah, so I grew up and I had celiac, and so I was like, all right, I know a decent amount about nutrition. And then in high school, I started running cross country and track, and then I realized how impactful nutrition is on our performance and how much it can change your ability to be able to perform well. And so from there, I was hooked. Around 10th grade, that's where I learned about nutrition and becoming a dietitian. And from there, that was all I started learning. So I'm excited to be here with you guys this week. As I don't know if you've known yet, or some of you guys, I got to meet you today. I am around. I'm a resource for you. So please, at any point in the time, if I'm at dinner or at lunch or breakfast, whatever, and you want to chat with me, I'm here. If I'm in between just walking somewhere, catch me. I'm here. I'm here as a resource for you guys. And also, I'll be in the mini sessions as well. So again, if you don't get your question answered here, or if you want to feel like you need to talk more one-on-one with me, I know sometimes nutrition can be a little bit more private. That we can do that as well. So yeah, by all means, I'm here to help you guys. So I kind of told you some of the backstory, but here's some more. So like David said, I went to Virginia Tech, go Hokies, for my bachelor's degree, which I graduated, I guess, 2025. And then this past May, I just graduated my master's. And then I recently, actually just this month, passed my credentialing exams in nutrition and dietitian. Super cool. And then also as for what I have done in the past, so all throughout when I was in Virginia Tech, or at Virginia Tech, I worked with sports nutrition. So I mainly did some football stuff, which you'll see there from the field, doing stuff during games. I also I worked a little bit with all of the teams, but more specifically with track and cross country, and then also men's soccer. And then I also done some nutrition counseling things and research throughout 2 years. And as David said, I was on the Colgan team. Where's my Colgan people at? Yeah, what's up? Stay sharp. And then also when I went to Tech, I was on the club team for about 2 years, and then I decided to do some more pursue, oh my, can't say it, pursue some more longer distances, which is crazy because in high school Davis would tell you he couldn't get me to run the 2 mile. I was like, okay. But yeah, and then I started running half marathons, and then I ran my first marathon a couple of years ago. So there's a couple pictures of me. I can show you that I did in fact this year with you guys, and you can see I was yelled at by Davis, but we kindly love him too. So yeah, I was here as a camper in 2018, and then I was here as a counselor in 2023. I've done lab and all the things. So yeah. All right. So as you've heard from a lot of people that we want to keep our phones away. But in this situation, I do have some resources for you guys, but I only put them up if you promise me that you will use your phone for only something good, taking notes or looking at the resources I provided for you guys. You guys got that? Can you all pinky promise me? Let's see your pinkies. Come on, pinkies up. If you know anything about me, pinky promises we keep. You have to keep this. You got it? Man, I don't see your pinkies up. Come on, come on, come on. There you go. All right, and now I'll close it. There we go. All right. So get out your phone for a second and take a picture or scan this QR code and you'll get some resources. Also, listen up. You can see in this bottom left corner here, bottom, yep, that's left, I think, there is an arrow. So on any of my presentation slides, if you see the arrow, that means that there is a handout associated with it. Also, my slides are on there and all the notes that I have with it. So if you guys ever want to resource it later or get my information, like you want to chat with me later, it's also on there. So feel free to take a look at it if anybody has got it. Yeah. Also, if you're not actually looking at it or needing it, please don't. Like I said, use your phone for good. Cool? Everybody got it? Cool. And we might do too, it might be helpful. There's quite a bit of information that I'll be giving you guys, so we might focus on some of the questions towards the end. But if there's a burning question that you're like, this is really right now, feel free to ask it. Cool? Cool. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the macronutrient breakdown. We're going to talk about pre-fueling, during fueling, and recovery, so practice. And then race day specifics, some things about supplements. We're going to learn about REDS, which you'll learn about what that means later, our relationship with food, some extra resources, and then questions, like I said, at the end. So the first thing I like to start with, which did you all get that sticker when you came in that said food is fuel? Yeah? Okay, do we have that in our water bottles? We put that somewhere? That's something that I created for you guys because that's something that we, at college, that's a Virginia Tech motto. That's above all of our fueling stations at Virginia Tech because of how important food is for us. So not only is food important for enjoyment and experience and culture, but also for us runners, it's really important for us to be able to focus because it's a tool for us to make sure that we're getting to our high performance level. So that's just a reminder. So put that sticker somewhere where you'll see it to know that food is fuel. All right, macronutrients. Some of you guys this morning learned a little bit about it, but we'll keep talking about it more. So we got our carbohydrates, we got our protein, and our fat. All right, over here, carbohydrates. Give me some examples. Go. Pasta, potatoes, rice, Krispies, yeah, bread, okay? You guys got it, yeah, exactly. So we got bread, we got rice, we got crackers, we got potatoes, we got pretzels, we got pasta, all kinds of things. All right, in here, protein. Beef, chicken, eggs. All right, you got it. Not junk food, I heard that. Okay. All right. Steak, yes, I heard you. Yes, we've got chicken, we've got eggs, we've got steak, we've got tuna, we've got fish, we've got, also we have yogurt. That is a caveat. We want protein is considered Greek yogurt. But regular yogurt is more on the side of carbohydrates. That's just because of how much protein is in it. So you got to be careful with that. And also beans. That's another one. Beans are considered a protein only when they're complete with rice. So by themselves, they don't have all of the 9 essential amino acids to be considered a protein by themselves. But when they're paired with rice, which is a fun fact, then they are. So just making sure you're putting those together when you're getting your Chipotle bowls. All right, over here. Fat, avocado, nuts, peanut butter, olives, milk. Milk is more of a carbohydrate, but that's good. Hey, I hear you chatting. Shush. Thank you. Yes, so we have nuts, we have olive oil, we have cheese, we've got peanut butter, we've got avocado, butter, seeds, nuts, all sorts of things. So you might be wondering, okay, what else is there? Like, Sienna, you're a dietitian, you probably like fruits and vegetables, right? Which, yes, I do. And you're like, why is it up there, right? Well, that's because for you guys, especially as runners, we don't use fruits and vegetables as a main source of carbohydrate. We need them for our micronutrients, so for vitamins and minerals and all sorts of things. But we don't often use them as the main source of carbohydrates, just because of the amount that is in them is a little bit less. But just so that you know, they are considered a carbohydrate. All right, as for pre-fueling, so this is all about timing, the amount that we have, and what is our comfort level. So what I mean by comfort is how does it feel for you? Everybody's different. And so I know, even on my team, there was some kid who they love to have pretzels before. They love to have Oreos before. I love Cheerios. Anybody that ran with me knew I always had a bag of Cheerios on race day. That's what I liked. Granted, that was not the only thing. But before practice, what we want to look at 3 to 4 hours before, we want to hydrate. We also want to get a balanced meal with complex carbs, fat, and protein. And then for 30 to 60 minutes before practice, we want to focus more on hydration, electrolytes, and eating smaller, quick carbohydrate snacks. We're going to talk about that in a second, what the difference between quick and complex carbs are, so that we know that. Also, for my heavy and salty sweaters out there, I don't mean the actual piece of clothing, but you likely know who you are, because I know my college roommates wear that. That anytime you start running, you're like, why am I sweating so much more than the person next to me? That likely means you're a heavy or salty sweater, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's important that you make sure that you get some sort of salty snack before practice so that you have enough of those electrolytes and salt in your body. Also, another key indication, if you are a salty sweater, is after you practice, if you have like a white ring or something on your clothes, that would mean that you're more of a salty sweater. All right, refueling. So before morning practice, please, anything you get out of this, grab a snack before a morning practice. That's such a huge thing. Because our bodies do not do well when you operate on nothing. An empty stomach is not good. And I know sometimes it's so hard to be like, I don't have much time. I don't want to do like the 3 to 4 hours to do a full meal. That's okay. It doesn't need to be that long. All you need to do is just have one of those quick carbohydrate snacks, which will tell you about something lighter. So we're talking like applesauce, crackers, all sorts of things. Why you need it is because your body needs that glucose. So our bodies train and use glucose when we're working out. If you don't have that glucose, it's using other things and further depleting your energy that's in your body, and that's not great because then your body isn't able to perform and grow at its peak performance. Okay. Also, too, is it increases our cortisol levels. Cortisol levels are a stress hormone, and so when we work out and we do anything like that, that just means that we naturally increase our cortisol levels when we work out, but we don't need to increase it any more than we have to and it would increase if we are grabbing a snack. So before your morning run in the morning as we get up, if you can, try to grab fruit snacks, try to grab something small, applesauce, because your body needs just a little something to start the day. All right, so I told you guys quick carbs versus complex carbs. So on that left side, we're first going to talk about quick carbs. So these are easier to digest, lighter on the stomach, and quicker energy. So there's some sources there. So we've got applesauce, we've got pretzels, we've got a granola bar, banana, Gatorade, oranges, something that feels light in your stomach. And why it's considered a quick carb, like I mentioned, is because it digests easier in your stomach. It doesn't take as long, and so you can get the energy from it, and it also doesn't sit heavy in your stomach. As for complex carbs, these take a little longer to digest. So they're important for a balanced meal. So when we're making like a full meal after practice or lunch or dinner, they're really important to use, especially too with carb loading too. They're super important. So bread, pastas, oatmeal, rice, all of those sorts of things. But just so you know the difference, quick carbs we use when we need something quick, so like right before we do any sort of exercise or race, and complex carbs are when we're going to try to build and replenish our store of glucose. That makes sense? Yeah? Thank you. All right, so during training, so again, like I talked about, those quick carbohydrates, it's really important that as you guys are doing your longer runs, I know sometimes on the weekends you're doing some longer ones, maybe like 9 miles, 10 miles, up to 12, I don't know, whatever you guys are doing. It's important that you do have some sort of energy for that. It's a good standard about every 30 to 45 minutes that you should have something while you're running. These are just some options up here that we've, that just so you know what they look like. So I know there's some that are in the store, like there's gels and there's all sorts of different things. But don't feel like you have to have the goo gels or something. If that's what you like and you can get them, perfect. But fruit snacks also work just as great. These applesauce, the Go-Go Squeeze Active electrolytes, that's what I use my entire marathon. That's what I use because it's what worked for me and it was super light on my stomach. So just having those, I know in high school for us, when our 10-mile runs are 1 teammate Sarah, she always carried a little pack of fruit snacks when we did our 10-mile runs or something. And when we were about halfway, I promised Davis we didn't walk. I don't know if you're in here anymore, but she shared those out, and so we were able to have those, which is super helpful. All right, another thing during training is hydration. Super, super important. And not just hydration and electrolytes, but water. We need both, but it's really important. So signs of dehydration are feeling thirsty. The one thing to know about that is feeling thirsty is considered a late sign of dehydration. So if you're feeling thirsty, that means that you are already dehydrated. So please get some water, okay? Other signs, higher heart rate, feeling fatigued, headaches. If you have heavier than usual breathing, we're going to talk about urine color. And how do we fix dehydration? Water and electrolytes, okay? Not too hard, but just make sure at practice that you have some sort of bottle of water and electrolytes as well. So this is one of the handouts that you guys have. And this just helps to break down just an understanding of how you fuel for different workouts that you're doing and how long you're working out. So the top one is about less than 45 minutes. And it will tell you here in this column here, what is a good guideline for how much to be fueling for. So on your own time, like I said, you can kind of look into it. This is an example of one of the handouts that you guys have in those resources. And yeah, as you can see, it also gives you a little bit more specific. If you want to look at grams of carbs, I wouldn't worry about that. Just kind of think of it. It gives you a good reference. But understanding that there is different levels of fueling for different exercises that you're doing. All right, like I said, urine color. We talked about this today in some of our mini sessions. To first start, if your urine color is this last color, please get some help. You might need to go to urgent care or something, but make sure you please get some help, okay? Our ideal is to be within these top three here of urine color, okay? This is a great indication to tell us if we're hydrated. We don't need to be all the way on the clear side of things, but it's important just to have that slight yellow color because that knows that we have proper electrolytes and things that are coming out of us and also coming in of us, and we're taking in as well. All right, as for electrolytes, so that's always a big topic. The average athlete loses about 1 to 3 liters of sweat per hour. You're probably like, okay, Sienna, how much is a liter? We don't live in Europe. There's 2 of your typical Deer Park water or any sort of the plastic water bottles you get from the grocery store. 2 of those is considered a liter. It's quite a lot, huh? And also in 1 liter of sweat, it's not just sodium is considered our electrolyte. I know often we think of electrolytes or you think of sodium. Well, there's also a whole bunch of other electrolytes in there too. And so it's important that why we think of, okay, I need to get some salt in, which is good, but also too why we rely on some of our sports drinks or like a liquid IV or something like that is because they also contain all of these other minerals that are super important for us. We can see that sodium and chloride are our biggest contender or biggest amounts that we have in there. But knowing that those forms of rehydration, like a Gatorade, have all of those in them, so that's why it's important to use some of those. And also too, again, my heavy and salty sweaters, this is another thing for you. You likely lose on that higher side closer to 3 liters of sweat per hour. So it's really important that you are consuming a higher amount of electrolytes and water as well. As for sources of electrolytes, what I want you guys to focus on, remember that I said that's that range, so about 460 to 1,840 milligrams of sweat in 1 liter. So what I break down here is that these are common different kind of electrolytes that you will see, or sources of electrolytes. So these Gatorade bottles, those are like the smaller ones that I was talking about, the 12 ounces one. They have about 160 milligrams of sodium. Pedialyte, also about 12 ounces of them, that has about 390 milligrams. For one of those bottles of Powerade, those are the bigger ones. That's about 28 ounces. That's about 100 or 600 milligrams. For element packet, I'm sure you guys have heard that those have been more popular lately. Those have about 1,000 milligrams. Liquid IV has 520 milligrams, and then drip drop, you maybe haven't heard of this one. This is one that we often use in football and all of athletics at Virginia Tech. Those have about 670 milligrams. What I want to say about these is these three are my favorite of the whole list here. You probably like, why can I have the other ones? And you can absolutely have the other ones. They're still just fine for you. They help in the same way that these ones do. But these ones are particularly my favorite because they have a bit of extra of that glucose, like sugar in them that we need to replenish when we are working out. So it's really important that, like I said, we're not only getting electrolytes, but we're also getting that glucose and our sugar. So these ones are, like I said, some of my favorites. Also, I do want to make a comment about our electrolytes, the element thing, or element packet there. That, I would say, is not something that we need to consume on the daily. Element packet has quite a bit of sodium in them, as we can see, compared to the other ones. If you are a heavy, salty sweater, if you are doing like maybe 2-a-days, or you also, it's like a hot summer workout, midday that you're working out, that's maybe when you start thinking about an element. But on the day-to-day, also not every single workout or every single day do you need electrolytes, but I would suggest that if it's hotter outside or you are doing a harder workout, that's when you want to really look at electrolytes. Or you're really like, ooh, I'm really feeling fatigued, you sweat a lot, that's when you start looking at electrolytes. All right, so for post-practice recovery, we talked about before pre-practice, we had fluid and electrolytes and carbohydrates, and now the big thing to add is protein. So we're going to talk about why for each of these. So again, fluid electrolytes, and we talked about it a lot, but it's really important that we're rehydrating the fluids and electrolytes that we lost. And even if you don't sweat, so I know sometimes if it's in the wintertime, you're like, I really didn't sweat. Our body's still using the fluids, and so it's really important that we're still hydrating and that we're still getting electrolytes. And without the proper hydration, we can feel more fatigued, we can be slower, have slower body function, and also it's needed for temperature regulation. So it's to regulate our body temperature. Carbohydrates. So we kind of talked about a little bit. Our main source of energy during exercise is glucose. But then why we add carbohydrates after is we have to replenish our glycogen storage. So glycogen is just the storage form of glucose. So just what's stored in our body. The same thing, but just the storage form. And so especially when we have a morning practice, and let's say we only had a small snack in the morning. So then we do use that amount, but then we also use our glycogen stores so that we're still able to practice at the highest level. And so that's why we need to make sure we're getting enough carbohydrates to replenish. And then also protein, as you probably heard before, when you work out your muscles, you create little micro tears in your muscles. And so the biggest thing that we can do to help that is having protein to be able to repair and regenerate that muscle tissue that's broken down during practice. And so it's really important that post-practice that we have at least something about 30 to 45 minutes after at max. So I know oftentimes we might be going to a trainer after practice, or we might be hanging around friends or waiting for a parent or guardian or whoever to come and pick us up. And that's where I would say try, if you can, pack a snack in your bag, a protein bar, something. We'll see a couple examples here in a minute. Have something so your body can start using it to repair the work that you've done. Because this is going to help to increase our performance and increase our recovery so that we can then come back the next day and feel even better. As for some examples, so here's one example of a post-practice recovery. We've got our electrolytes, so we've got some water, we've got electrolytes, we've also got our carbohydrates, so we got some pretzels and some celery and carrots. Again, I know we talked about carbohydrates, and this is just a small example of where we get carbohydrates, but it is still carbohydrate. That's why it's there. And hummus is another one. It's just protein. We could say, here's another example. We've got some water. Again, there's the elements. Maybe someone's super hot day, 2-a-day kind of thing. Use that. We got some fruit and some Greek yogurt. Another good one would be, we could do Gatorade. You could do some watermelon for some of the fluid and electrolytes, and the watermelon is favorite thing it still is to this day. After a good hard workout, a PB&J sandwich, and then a protein shake, for example. There's all sorts of different ideas out there. Yeah. And remember, if you need to refer back to any of this stuff, it is in those resources. So yeah, another big thing is fueling for recovery and maintenance. So now that we've had something right after practice, that's really helpful. But we also need to think about something like our meals on a day-to-day. So now we're going to talk about a couple ways that we want to balance our plate. I know a couple people that I worked with this morning, we talked about, I said, wait for the plates, wait for the plates. You're going to see them here in a second. So what I say by balance too, is that we want to be adding a variety of food to what we eat. You're like, okay, why? Well, that's because that's how we are going to get a lot of those micronutrients that I was talking about, our vitamins and minerals and all those sorts of things. If we're eating, I love to say, if you're eating a rainbow on your plate, you're doing great. Truly, if you can try to get a whole bunch of different colors on your plate, that's where you're going to get all sorts of different vitamins and minerals. And our goal is to reach for 3 meals a day and 2 to 4 snacks. So whether that's a snack before, like, let's say it's 4. So like that would be a snack before breakfast. It could be then breakfast, then we have a snack after breakfast, before lunch, a snack after lunch, and then dinner, and then a snack after dinner. So just kind of spacing things out throughout the day so that we are fueled consistently. And then too, like I said, like we were talking about, we want to have a small snack right after practice, but then at max, we also want a full meal about 2 hours after practice as well. So here is one of the first performance plates I was talking about. So this one, we're going to have an easy, medium, and hard training performance plate. So this first one is one that we would look at if we are in our off season, where we have an off day, for example. Let's say we're cross training, even cross training, we still should be doing our moderate plate. Let's say, I know us as cross country athletes, you really don't always have an off season, but if you do, this is kind of what we're going to look at. So about half of our plate should be vegetables and fruit. About a fourth of our plate should be lean protein. And then just about a fourth of the plate should also be whole grains. Keep in mind that fats are still up there. And then we also still have dairy as well. So making sure it's a good balance of all sorts of things. As for moderate training, so this is kind of, you're in season, you're doing a workout a day, or let's say when you're in school, this is kind of what you should be looking for. So still about a fourth of your plate should be with protein, and then split the rest of your plate with vegetables and grains. And you're like, wait, what happened to fruit? It's still there. See, it's around the plate, but it's not something that's on the plate. So making sure that we're still getting that in. I'm not saying no fruit, we're still eating fruit. We still have our fats, and we also still have our dairy. And then this is for hard training. So this is when we're doing 2-a-days, which we're doing that here at camp. So maybe this is what we want to take as consideration for when we're building our plates here. Or also too, you've probably heard of carbo loading. And carbo loading is when we need to add a whole bunch or extra carbs into our diet the day before a hard race. That's making sure that we're building these glycogen stores like we talked about so that we have enough energy to be able to perform at our best during the race the next day. So what that looks like is about half of our plate should be grains, about a fourth of our plate should be lean protein, and the other fourth should be vegetables, and still including those fruit, as always, those fats, and dairy. Also too, just like I have allergies and things, there are things that can change, like my grains will likely look different than those specific grains there, or other allergies and things. So there's ways to kind of change things around a little bit, but that's just kind of a baseline. And also too, our goal throughout the day is you want to have 2 servings of fruit and 3 servings of vegetables each day. And we can think of a serving as our fist. So fist size is about the size of a serving. So you can think of like, okay, I'm going to get some of these carrots on my plate. All right, let me look at it. Okay, about a fist. That is your size of 1 serving. All right, race day fueling. So this is all about timing and what works for your body. Just like we were talking about before with refueling, it's about the comfort. It's the same thing here, but even more so. And similar to the timing of after practice, we have the same thing of for race day. We got a timeline almost. So starting here, about 3 to 4 hours before your race, you want to focus on a balanced meal and focus on carbs. So thinking back to that hard focused plate. And then making sure we're getting our hydration and electrolytes. About 1 to 2 hours before that race, we want to think about quick carbs. So those are things like apple sauce, something like, I know a big thing for us was banana bread. There's all those quick carbs, and then also to the hydration and electrolytes. And then 30 to 45 minutes before, that's when we focus on electrolytes and hydration. Again, this is also something that what works for you. So there might be a situation where, hey, I know what works for me is to have a little bit of, again, for me, Cheerios right before, and it's within that 30 to 45-minute window. That's okay. It's truly okay. If this isn't like a hard and fast to do it this way specifically, but this is kind of our guideline, our basics. Another thing is, let's say, and I saw your question, I'm going to get to you. I think I might answer it in a second, but if not, let me hear your question. The other thing is, let's say you have cross-country races, they're often in the morning. So then what do? I'm not going to get up 3 hours before my race. I mean, I sure wouldn't. That's where we have to kind of adjust things. We have to kind of use a brain, think about, okay, it's going to be more like an hour to 2 hours before. So it's still important that we're getting our quick carbs, but maybe use some of those things from our balance plate, so including a protein, including a fat in there, so that we're still getting a balance, but maybe at a smaller level, and still a higher focus of carbs, and still fluid and electrolytes. Did that answer your question enough? It did? Okay. All right. Also, too, a big thing is it's important to limit foods that feel dense in our stomach. The worst feeling I absolutely know, and I know you guys know it, is when you feel like you've had something heavy in your stomach and you're racing and you're like, I'm getting everywhere. So not fun. So just the baseline for that is limit foods that feel dense and heavy in your stomach. So oftentimes what those are dairy, high-fat foods, high fiber, and high protein. So by all means, I do not recommend a steak the day before your race. If you, for some reason, can do that, that's very impressive, but I would not say work towards that. It's just important, like I said, to keep things that are light and easy so that you don't feel heavy. Again, nobody likes that feeling. All right, some ideas. So 3 to 4 hours before, we can look at a sandwich, oatmeal, a bagel, you can put cream cheese, you can put peanut butter, whatever works for you, PB&J. An hour to 2 hours, that's where we're going to pull in like a banana or fruit snacks, applesauce, pretzels, or a granola bar. And then 30 to 45 minutes, that's where we're going to focus on more of that hydration, so we could do like watermelon or oranges or some of those electrolyte drinks. Those are just some ideas, and they're kind of repeat of what you've heard before, but kind of hopefully that'll give you an idea of things that you might like and that you can relate to that. All right, supplement use. I know there's always big questions about bicarb, about creatine, about all the things out there. But the first thing, and I sounded like a broken record this morning, and I will if you ask me about it, the biggest thing is we can't get to supplements unless we do the baseline thing. So what I want you to do, or do a little activity for a second, don't even move. Everybody, we're going to pretend like we're 5 years old, okay? Go back to that. I want you to hold up an imaginary bucket. Hold up. I can't do it because I have a microphone. Hold 2. There you go. Okay. And now I want you to pour water into your bucket. Pour water into your bucket. It's holding in there, right? You got your water in your bucket, not coming out. All right. Spill your water on your friend. Spill it over. There you go. Now I got away. All right. Okay. Come back. Come back. Come back. All right. Hold your bucket again. Hold it again. And now, poke holes in it. Go. Poke holes in it. All over them. Okay, now, hold your water bucket. Pour it into it. What the heck? You just got all wet. Guys, why'd you pee yourself? That's gross. Come on now. We're not 5. Okay. So what we did right there is those holes that we poked in there are these levels of things that we've talked about. So when you don't have these levels that we were talking about here, so this is like our energy intake, our hydration, like we talked about, getting enough food, our fuel, fluid frequency, if we're not eating our 3 meals a day and 2 to 4 snacks a day, if you're not drinking enough water, your electrolytes, if you're not using your performance plates, if you're also not focused on nutrient timing, which are those timelines that I was talking about, if we're not doing all of those sorts of things, but yet the thing that we are doing is adding supplements in like creatine or all those sorts of things that we think about and hear about, then it's not going to work. Everything else is going to fall out of our bucket. So what I want you to understand is that, yes, those supplements are good and can help us. They do have benefits, but they're not going to do anything unless you have everything else underneath it going well for you, okay? So that's where I want you guys to get out of this, is making sure that you are doing those things before we even think about supplements, okay? Another thing is supplement safety. That's a big thing. So supplements out there, there's a whole thing about it, but they are not regulated by the FDA. I could tell you more about that, but what basically means is that anybody can put anything in supplements if they want to, which is not a great thing for us, especially once you get into collegiate sports, when there's things with like the U.S. Anti-Doping Association, you'll learn about that. But what's really important is that when we are looking for supplements, we're looking for these 3 labels. And these 3 labels mean that it's third-party testing. And that just means that it's been tested by another organization so that you know that what is on that label is what is in there. So that's just super important. So here's some examples. So we've got iron, for example. I know all of our women out there, I had super low iron in high school too. This might be something you're looking at. There's our label. And then a protein powder. This is by all means not the best one out there, but just for the sake of the label, there's our other third-party testing label. So making sure if we are doing supplements, we want to look for those to make sure we have the right ones, and what they say on the label is what we're actually consuming. We're getting there. You guys are hanging in. I know it's been such a long day, so I appreciate your patience. We're almost there. The last couple of things I want to chat about. So reds. Who's ever heard of reds before? Yeah? Okay, cool. So not very common, but what it is it's the relative energy deficiency in sport. And what that describes is that it's a condition that both men and women can have that occurs when athletes do not consume enough energy to support the demands of their training and daily activities. And what that leads to is lower energy levels, that's a higher risk of injury, of illness, nutrition deficiencies, fatigue, lower capacity for peak performance. So this is what we're really talking about. It's really important that we're getting enough energy. And because these 2 circles, if you look up anything about reds, this is what you're going to see. And what I know it's probably very small and you cannot read it, but I want to read off a couple things. On the left here, this is what shows us what the impact on our life can be if we are underfueling ourselves. Is we can see things, and on that pie, again, you have this resource if you want to look into it more. We can reduce our immunity, so we can get sick a little faster. We can also have impaired bone health, which is not great because you guys are all still growing, most of you. But it's really important that we're having a peak amount of nutrients so that our bones can grow. Our GI function cannot be great. Our mental health issues can come from it. So maybe more issues or more things related to anxiety, depression can come from this mental fog. Sleep disturbances, impaired cardiovascular function, so our heart won't work as well. Our skeletal muscle function, so the strength that we need. So yeah, runners do need strength still, obviously. And so that can be impaired. And then impaired growth and development. Again, I'm only listing a couple of these. You can see truly how many are on there. But then too, here on your right, this is the impact on sport. So we kind of touched on a couple of them. So if we are consuming less than we should be, that's we're going to decrease recovery, decrease cognitive and performance skills, which you guys are student athletes. You still have school. It's still super important that you are eating enough so you can fuel, so you can still do well in school so that you can play your sport. Decrease motivation, decrease muscle strength, like we talked about, decrease endurance performance, which is huge for us. We need that. And decrease power performance as well. So that's what I want to start with. That is just showing you that it can be challenging sometimes to feel like we can have enough, eating enough. There's often that where we talk about sometimes with eating disorders. And knowing eating disorders aren't just where we starve ourselves. There's other sorts of eating disorders out there. And just kind of want to briefly talk about it. I've also in the past struggled with one as well. And knowing that it's important for you to step out and get the help. And knowing how important it is, which we'll talk about some more resources here in a second, that it's not your fault and that someone truly can help you. Okay, sometimes it can be hard if there's a lot of food noise going on, if there's a lot of things just overarching, we feel very particular about things, or it just can be challenging relating to food. There's people out there like me that can help you. Okay. And the biggest thing, like I said, of what comes back to this is relating to sports. It's really important that we're eating enough to fuel our bodies so we can perform well. And then last bit here is a positive relationship with food. So just like I talked about, we want to make sure that we're eating enough to fuel your performance and everyday lifestyle. Each person is different. You should not be eating like your favorite influencer. Okay? They are not running like you are. They're likely not your age. Maybe they are. But you have to understand also every single one of you is completely different. Like I said, I love Cheerios. That's what worked for my body. But the person next to me, Oreos work for them. Okay? So it's super important that you understand how much that nutrition is based on what works for you. And it is all about balance. Okay? I'm not also up here saying you can never have candy. There is time and place for candy. On race day, if you want a little bit of that, go for it. If that works for you, go for it. But let's not eat that all the time, okay? And then also too, don't overthink it. I know I gave you a lot of numbers, a lot of timing things, all sorts of different things that are like, all right, this time, this time, this time. It doesn't need to be at this restricted certain amount of time a day. Just we want to use these as resources where we start from and then create something that works for us. And then additional resources. Again, I put these in your slides for you. And so if you want to learn more about stuff, this is where if you're interested in nutrition and dietetics, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is super cool. The USOC, that's a sport and performance, the United States Olympic Committee. There's some more information there. Sports medicine, all sorts of stuff. If you want to read some research articles, go for it. All sorts of stuff there. Another thing I like to point out is Nourish. This is a great option. So I know often high schoolers don't have access to a registered dietitian, like college students do. This is a way that you can work with your parents to get access to a dietitian a lot easier. They work on the insurance a lot easier, which again, you don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. But this is an online platform where you can very quickly be able to meet with a dietitian and see what their profession is or where they specifically work in, and so that you can find someone that relates to you. I'm also not an ad. I don't work for them. I'm just saying, you need to go on there. It's just a really great resource that if you do need access or want to chat with a dietitian and maybe don't have one locally, that can be a great way to do that. Last thing here before questions, so a couple takeaways. I usually, like I said, like to make this more interactive and ask you what your takeaways are. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of show you a couple things I want you to remember. So first thing, pre-practice, during practice, electrolytes and quick carbs. Post-practice, we're adding that protein in and a balanced meal after that. And then race day, it's all about timing and your preferences. Hydration and less heavy foods as well, things that don't feel super heavy in our stomach. Hydrate, add electrolytes. Supplement use, make sure that is our last step. Remember, we have to make sure all of the holes in our bucket are filled once we can start adding those supplements in there. And then reds, it's really important that we're eating enough. And it can be hard because we don't know often, but make sure that you are getting enough to fuel your body so we're not feeling that fatigue and we can get to that peak performance. But that is all that I have here. What I want to say too is, like I said, I am here, so if I can't answer your questions now, same with coaches too. I know I'll be doing a coaches session later. But if you guys want to ever stop me at all, you are welcome to. But yeah, and there's my information. Please feel free to reach out at all. You absolutely can. But you have questions. Thank you. And I think we'll keep it short. I know we're probably running close on time. I'm not sure how much time we have, but what questions? We'll do a couple. Yeah. Monitoring, guiding the meals here. I am not monitoring and guiding the meals here. I mean, they're doing a great job in there. But that's the other thing I tell everybody. I'm not the food police. That's another thing you have to know about dietitians. So I'm not out there monitoring what you specifically are putting on your plate either, but I unfortunately am not working with them right now. I have in the past with other places, but not here right now. but it's a good question. Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. So you asked, what do I mean by supplements? So supplements, as in, what do I mean by that last step? So supplements, as in, like, we're thinking about like our creatine, we're thinking about protein powders, we're thinking about multivitamins, we're thinking about even iron and all those sorts of things. Granted, if you have a deficiency, like some of our females maybe have a deficiency, that's when we're gonna jump the gun and put maybe a little bit more of iron in our diet and things. But those sorts of things that we can think of, like bicarb, all of that stuff that's out there that we would add in addition, those are the things that will come in the last step. Does that help make sense? That makes sense? Cool. Yeah. You said, what's the difference between celiac and gluten-free? Okay. Yeah. So celiac is the condition, I guess, the thing that I have. So, and then gluten-free is just the diet that I have to follow. So there's some folks that don't have celiac and just follow a gluten-free diet. But celiac is when I do have gluten, for me, myself, it'll cause an intestinal reaction. And so there's these things in our stomach that absorb nutrients called villi. So they look like fingers like this. When I eat gluten, mine shrivel up. And that means that I don't absorb the proper nutrients. But for other people that are just gluten-free, that doesn't often happen, but they might have more bloating or something like that they follow that diet. But that's more of the condition versus the diet itself. Uh-huh. Yes. How are you supposed to know if you're eating enough? That's a great question. That's where we start looking at our signs. So if we feel like in practice, I'm feeling really fatigued. Granted, there is calculations to get you all sorts of numbers and things, but that's at this level, and anybody really doesn't need that. What you really need to focus on, how do you feel? So how do you feel in practice? Do you feel like you are eating enough, or do you feel like you are energized? Do you feel like you are rested after the next day? Another big thing is thinking about our cues. So thinking if we're feeling hungry, we have something. If we're feeling full, all right, that's when I stop eating. Okay, really focusing on listening to our body. Our body knows a lot. It can handle it. So we have to kind of tune in to what our body is saying and kind of listen to that. Does that help a little bit? Okay. Yes. Yeah. The question is, if you feel like you didn't eat enough one day, can you eat more the next day to make up for that? I would say yes, you would add a little bit extra, but I wouldn't say continue to add a whole lot more. We want to focus on trying to get as much as we can, what we can the day of, and then the next day should be fine too. Let's say it's a day, like I know race day for me, my stomach was always in knots and I just couldn't eat very much. But then I felt my body the next couple days that I was like, all right, I'm pretty hungry. So making sure to listen to that, and yeah, add a little bit extra, but don't feel like it's like a give and take. Okay, I didn't eat much today, then that means I can eat more the next day. We want to keep it as balanced as possible. If that makes sense. So yes, but also want to try to keep that balance. What makes your pee yellow? I have to say I do not know the exact science behind what the yellow color comes from. I did learn about urine and how our body makes that all, but it's likely related to like the things that are being excreted in our body. So it's a lot of fluids and extra stuff that I mean. I don't know if the coaches might know some, but yeah, maybe look that one up on Google. What's up? Yeah, you back there. Do you have a question? No. Okay. Any other questions? You guys probably ready to go eat your food. Excellent. Sweet. Well, thank you guys. I'll be around.
You don't want to leave yet. We got gift cards. And other things. All right, so we're going to take it all the way back to Sunday. School Spirit Sunday. Again,
The way you win or get in tag camp, hashtag BR camp 26. One of you. Come on, come on. It's true. That one. Yeah. And that wait. Find 2 friends. It's 2 more than you have already. I know, it's 2 more than you have already. Maybe you'll get some of those. No, that's a threat. Apple, apple, apple. One of you. Tuesday, today. She's so committed, she's still in it. All right, so tomorrow, World Cup Wednesday, something soccer-ish themed. Again, don't forget, tag camp, hashtag BR camp 26. That's how you get in. Tomorrow, we will have an update points-wise for the team challenges. Jump up the Instagram, Coach Walton, so you can see it. From tonight, we did record the fashion show. But notice, we need votes. So, yes, you went on that. So, talk to your friends if you have some. Okay? Points are partially determined by votes. Okay? So there's that. On your way out tonight, college concerts in the back have keychains for you from Chicken Legs. Free keychains. Get one on the way out.